All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. We are recording this webinar, so if there are any staff members that couldn't attend today, or if you want to go back and get a refresher, feel free to do that. I will send out the link to Kelly and Cindy today, and they can forward that to you. One note before we start, we did have to make a couple changes to the PIT form to add some more lines for different places people could be staying. So when we get to that, I will show you those changes, and then we will I will also send that updated form out when I send the recording out as well. So just a heads up on that, and we will go ahead and get started. Good morning. Today we are going to be doing the South Central Illinois Continuum of Care point in time training for 2023 for our central region. Welcome. My name is Jessica Pauley. I take care of the HMIS system for the Continuum. I have been doing this probably for roughly 5 years-ish. So if I've been through a couple of these PIT cycles. So if there's anything that you have questions about, feel free to ask. If I don't know the answer, we will definitely get that answer for you. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you have to jump off to take a call, or if you've got a client that comes in the office, that's absolutely fine. As I said before, we are recording this, so you can go back and pick up what you missed. I do ask that you would keep yourselves on mute unless you have a question or a comment, just because it kind of cuts out on that background noise and makes it easier for everybody to hear. All right, so point in time or PIT count, what is this? COCs are required by HUD to conduct and plan an annual point in time count of all the homeless persons in our geographic area. COCs are then required to submit all of that data to HUD through one of their HDX websites. So basically what it does is the amount of individuals that we show on our PIT count can affect the amount of funding that we receive. So it's very important that we can count all those individuals to get a very accurate count of what homelessness looks like in our communities. So first steps, how would we start? What do we need to do? The first thing I recommend is you contact your local agencies that have previously given vouchers for hotel vouchers. So that could be churches, Salvation Army, any of those places, townships sometimes, any of those places that you know have previously paid for homeless individuals to have housing in the past. Go ahead and reach out to them and let them know what a PIT count is when we're doing it. Just to kind of give them a heads up and build that relationship so that on the day of the point in time count that it'll be easier for you to count those individuals. Okay. Second, we ask that you contact your local law enforcement officials in your areas just to let them know that, hey, on this day, we will be doing this count. You may see us driving around, groups of people out looking for these individuals, just so they kind of have an idea. And also to let them be aware that if they have someone that is homeless to give you guys a call so they can fill out a form. Contact local hotels in your area that you know have housed homeless individuals in the past. So if you know that, for instance, Motel 6 usually has a lot of homeless individuals that are housed there through churches, go ahead and reach out to that motel and ahead of time and kind of give them the background information and build that relationship as well. And then also the final thing will be review PIT log for locations to visit during the point in time count. So the PIT log we will show in just a little bit. Basically, it's kind of like a to-do sheet. It can be something that you use to plan ahead of time, different areas to check for the PIT. You can also look at previous year's PIT logs to find out where you were previously looking in the past to kind of get an idea of where to canvas this year. Additionally, as we did last year, we are going to be completing a risk factors form. So this form is primarily for like hotel operators or emergency shelter operators that see a lot of first-time homeless individuals. However, it can be used for any organization you know that sees first-time homeless. So Salvation Army, churches, townships, all those would count for this as well. I do ask that when you're out canvassing or talking to them ahead of time, just to please give them this form and ask them if they would fill this form out for us. We use the information on this for what factors are associated with first-time homelessness in order to plan different programs in the future. So we're trying to get a glimpse of what's actually happening with our clients to try and figure out how best to help them in the future. Okay. If you have these forms that the agencies completed or the emergency shelters, hotel operators completed, please send them to Kelly, and then Kelly can get them to me. All right, so important changes from last year. HUD actually didn't make many changes at all. There was just one change that they did from last year to this year. They are requiring that we do more detailed information about the age of those that we find. So we already try and record the date of birth. So we've already kind of have that covered. However, if somebody's not comfortable giving you their full date of birth, try and get their birth year at least. That will help us be able to meet HUD's requirement and also be able to make sure we've got them counted correctly. So what should you do in preparation for the count? So you've already done those things on that first list. Now what do I do? First thing would be to make enough copies for your PIT survey. So that'll be the PIT form that we send out that somebody updated today. That'll be the copies that you make. You can make a copy of your PIT log for each of the staff members that are going to be canvassing that area, and also try and discuss which staff members are counting which places and what times. The reason for this is so that we can try and make sure we don't duplicate a count. We'll also go into this a little bit deeper later, but when you're counting an individual, please get as much information as possible. If somebody is not comfortable giving you their information, please write down as much detailed description as you can. So for instance, if you found somebody on the street corner of 4th Street, for instance, and they're staying in a yellow tent, please make a note of that on there if they do not give you their information, so we can make sure we're not duplicating our count. And then also kind of it goes back in with make a copy of your PIT log, make a plan as to who is counting at what time and what areas, so you don't duplicate areas and you can get the most inclusive count that you can. All right, so during the count, safety is the first priority. So feel free to wear a mask, social distance, however you need to be safe, please do that. A lot of times people will go in groups of at least 2, especially if you're counting and it's dark outside. Please do that and please be safe. That is our utmost goal for this. During the count, the form that you'll fill out, it's called the PIT survey form. Please write legibly. If you need to write in block letters, however you need to do it, please write as legibly as you can. Sometimes it's hard to read some of the forms after they've been faxed over or emailed over. So please write legibly. On every form, please write down the agency, the county, the region, and then the person completing that form. So for instance, you guys are all in the central region. I believe everybody on here is a staff member at CEFS. So please write that on there on the form. That just helps us make sure that I've got everything counted by their correct areas. And then additionally, as we've done in the past, we use check boxes for a lot of the form blanks so that it kind of helps cut out on some of that writing. Point in time survey questions. These are literally the exact same as last year. So when we do the count on the 25th, we are going to be asking people where they're staying that night. So if you meet somebody in the early morning on the 25th, we're looking for where they are sleeping on the night of the 25th. So when we're asking them that, keep that in mind. How many people are staying together, name, best way to contact and contact info. If that's an email address or a phone number, whatever that is, please try and collect that if somebody has more than one contact information. So maybe they've got their phone number and then they give you their mom's phone number as well. That's great. Put all that information on there. Household information, birth date, gender, ethnicity, race, disabilities, domestic violence survivor, or if they're homeless due to domestic violence, a veteran, or chronically homeless. If an individual is staying at a motel or a hotel with one of the vouchers given by, the township or Salvation Army or a church, it's extremely important that we get that information for the organization that paid for that hotel stay as well. So I'll show you on the form here in just a second, but these are the things that we need to make sure that we get about that agency. Okay, so to talk about the chronically homeless questions. So on the form, there are a couple questions that talk about chronically homeless. In that, on that form, so what we are meaning by chronically homeless? In order to count an individual, they have to be disabled, okay? Second, we are trying to find out how long they've been homeless, okay? So you can ask how they've been homeless for every night for the past year. So if they've been homeless for the last 365 days. If they say yes and they're disabled, that would qualify as chronically homeless. Or have they been homeless for at least 4 times in the past 3 years, equaling 12 months. So basically, have they been homeless for 365 days in the last 3 years? Okay, so there's 2 different criteria for that. If you have someone that you are not sure if they're chronically homeless, and you try and get kind of a timeline of when they've been homeless, and you can jot it on the side of the form, and we can kind of go through that and verify if they are or if they're not. Okay, so schedule of the count. So ideally, we'd like to have coverage for the 24 hours for the 25th. However, if you are doing your count and it's in the early morning on the 25th, make sure that you're asking that client, where are they sleeping tonight? Okay. I suggest counting in 4-hour blocks. However, each organization does it a little bit differently. So work with Kelly and Cindy to figure out what times they'd like you to count. We also need individuals to contact local churches, and agencies to see if they've placed anyone in the hotel or motel. And then it would be helpful to schedule a time with who will be canvassing in what area. So making that plan will be very helpful to you to make sure you get all your areas counted. Okay, so I need forms given back to me no later than February 10th. Typically, I believe they get sent to Kelly or Cindy first. Kelly, do you know who those forms are going to be being sent to at your agency? I guess, or Cindy, either one. Cindy, okay. So, and then what deadline would you like to have the forms, Cindy, from your staff?
Sorry, I'm trying to get
unmuted. Oh, you're good.
So yeah, send them to me. Let me take a quick look at, you get them by when did you say?
I need them by the 10th of February.
Okay, let me look at my calendar. So I want them by the 3rd of February.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead and send them to Cindy by the 3rd. Also, if you have a client that comes in technically within that last week up until, let's see, so we're doing the PIT on the 25th. The 7 days after, if you encounter a client, you can ask them if they were homeless on the 25th, and then we can count them. So just keep that in mind with your outreach staff. If you have somebody come in that's homeless and they say that they're homeless on the 25th, we can count them. So go ahead and fill a form out for them as well.
So basically up until February 1st, correct?
Right. Yep. All right, so questions. Do we have any questions now before we start going over the forms? I'm just going to give it just a second for the chat as well. So feel free to take yourself off mute if you have a question, or to put it in the chat. Either way is completely fine. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a second and get my other screen pulled up while we're. So in the chat, Amy asks, we can include someone who is homeless up until the 1st of February. Yes, Amy, as long as they were homeless on the 25th. And you could get the information from them then. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen again. right, so can you guys see the Excel spreadsheet? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this is going to be the PIT survey form. As I said earlier in the call, this is updated from the one that was sent out with the link for this call. We noticed an error with putting some of the types of locations. So this has been updated. I will send it out to Cindy and Kelly today with the link for the training, okay? All right, so on this form, you'll see at the top are those 6 things that talked about at the beginning that you need to fill out as the interviewer. So your agency, location, this location, be as specific as you can. So if you are, just be specific. If you're on the corner of such and such street, go ahead and put that in there. The more details, the better. The interviewer, so that's your name. Region will be central for all of you. What county you're in, and then what time of the count, what time you're counting. Please use AM or PM as well, just to make sure that we can be as detailed as we can to hopefully not duplicate any counts. This part right here is the type of location. So where was the individual sleeping on January 25th, 2023? Okay, so if it's an emergency shelter, the name. Here it talks about voucher motel. So this is where we talked about the sponsor information. If somebody is staying at a hotel paid for by another organization or a church, you would mark this box, put where they're staying, which hotel, and then the sponsor over here, you will put their information. So say, for instance, somebody's staying at the Motel 6 and is being paid for by the Methodist Church, okay? I would put in here Motel 6, and then over here, I would put, you could put Motel 6 / Methodist Church if you want to, that's fine. A contact name. So who at the Methodist Church could I contact if I have more information? So say, for instance, Jane Smith, and then the number that I can reach her at, the address of the church, and then what towns they served. This is more for if it's like an organization like CEFS that covers multiple counties. If it's just a church, go ahead and put that town there. If it's a different organization that covers multiple counties or towns, feel free to put that there as well. How many people are observed staying together? So how many adults are there and how many children? Okay, and then we will, let me zoom this out just a little bit. Okay. All right, so for each individual that's in the household, I would like you to please fill out one of these boxes, okay? So again, be as detailed as you can. If a client is not willing to give you that information, that's completely fine. Just put down what information they give you. Because we are doing an actual count and not just an observation only count, please do not guess for any of these questions. Please ask the client to let you know which one of these apply to them. Again, if somebody doesn't want to give you the answer, that's completely fine. Just leave it blank. Okay. The date of birth will go right here. Again, if somebody won't give you their full date of birth, try and get their birth year. HUD is requiring us to categorize the dates or categorize the ages of our clients a little bit differently this year. So that'll help with that. A best way to contact. So if it's cell phone, email, whatever, and then how to contact them. Gender, race, disability, household information. So is this just one person? That'd be self. And of course, if head of household, spouse, child, or other, or it could just be other, it could be an other non-related, that's fine as well. Ethnicity, chronic homeless. This is where we talk about those chronic homeless questions. If someone has been is disabled and has been homeless for 365 days in a row, then you would mark yes for chronic 1. You'd mark yes for chronic 3 if they're disabled and they've been homeless for basically a year in the last 3 years. Okay, so and again, if you're not sure there and you want to leave it blank and you just want to put other notes here, you can describe the situation and we can figure that out as well. No problem. Is the individual homeless due to domestic violence? Yes or no? Are they an adult survivor of domestic violence? Yes or no? Veteran? Yes or no? Substance abuse? Yes or no? HIV/AIDS, yes or no, a serious mental issue, and then other notes. The other notes can be also used. So if somebody's not willing to provide you information on their demographics or their date of birth, that kind of thing, then that's where you could put yellow tint on the corner of such, those kind of things. So this can be for more notes just to help us disseminate the client from everybody else. Okay. Yep, and Diane had a question about the chronic 1 and chronic 3. So chronic 1, in order to claim any of these chronic questions, they have to be disabled. Okay, so if your client's not disabled, you can go ahead and just skip the chronic altogether. If they are disabled, you need to ask them, have you been homeless for the last year? So have you been homeless for the last 365 days? Okay, if they say yes, then you're able to mark the yes for chronic 1. Okay, for chronic 3, we're trying to figure out if they've been homeless for a total of 12 months within the last 3 years. So they have to have 4 or more instances of homelessness during that, but basically, are they homeless for an entire 365 days in the last 3 years? Does that, do you have any other questions about that, Diane? Okay, perfect. And again, if you have a client that you're not sure about, feel free to make notes and Cindy and I can figure it out. Were you going to say something, Cindy?
Yeah, I was just going to say a question came up to me directly about does the disability just have to be self-attested or do they
Yes.
need to be receiving disability? But exactly, we
Yeah.
won't be receiving any kind of verification from them. So it's if they say they're disabled, they're disabled.
Right. And that's a good question and good for all of these things. This is all what the client tells you for all of these questions on here. So good question. So you'll notice that there are 4 different household member forms on this one sheet. If there's a household that has more than 4 individuals, feel free to just attach this another sheet with their other individuals. That's no problem at all. Also, say there's only 2 household members, just leave the last 2 blank. Okay. Any questions on this form before we talk about the next form? Okay, give me just a second. I'll get that pulled up. Okay, next we are going to look at the risk factors form. So this is the same exact form we used last year as well. This one is what we use to talk to those hotel operators. Sometimes we've had individuals talk to like the SSVF or any agencies that are referring homeless individuals to you. This just kind of gives us an idea of what they're seeing with these individuals who come in throughout the year. Okay, so these are pretty, it's only 5 questions, so fairly simple survey. The first one is, on average, how many homeless individuals do you have who entered your facility each month? Of these individuals, how many do you believe are homeless for the first time? For these first-time homeless individuals, what reasons do they say cause them to become homeless? And they can check all the boxes that apply. There's also room for them to list something if there's something else not on the list. Question 4 says, what would you say is the biggest reason for these homeless individuals finding housing and getting, so why can't they find housing? Needs to be for not finding housing. Okay, and then where do you refer homeless persons for assistance with housing needs? So basically, if they have someone who's homeless, how do they go forward with that? Do they refer them anywhere? Any of that. Okay, and I will get this formatted a little bit better to get it on one page, and I'll send it out with the updated PIT form as well. Any questions on the risk factor form? This form could just be filled out either when you're talking to those hotels before the PIT or during the PIT. Just send it over to Cindy, and Cindy will make sure that I get it as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop share for a second and then pull up the PIT log. This form, feel free to use if it works for you, but if not, that's fine too. Okay. All right. So this form can be used ahead of time, kind of as a planning sheet. So what I've typically done in the past is I've sat down, a couple weeks before and looked at last year's pit log, and then also thought about if there's any new places in the community where homeless people might congregate. So you would just put your agency name here and what county. And then when you're planning, you would put the name of the location, the address. So say for instance, Casey's, and then whatever address it is. And then go down the list for all the places that you'd like to make sure you check during the point in time count. And then on the night of the pit is when you can go ahead and bring this form back out. And then you could fill in the time of the location and the outcome. So outcome could be, 0 homeless, 2 homeless, whichever. But that way it's kind of like a checklist for you when you're going through that count to make sure that you've got all those places that you wanted to count.
Jess, do you
Yes, ma'am.
want these forms back as well, or is this really more just for our records to keep track of?
Yeah, it's mostly for your records. But if you want to send it to me and I can send it back out to you next year, that's fine too. Or you can just keep it in office and just use it the next year. That's completely fine.
Okay, so we'll keep that in office because if you don't need it, we don't need it.
Yep, perfect. That would be great. Okay, so that is all of the forms. What questions, if any, do you guys have? Anything? So Diane, so do we need to witness the homeless or just employees at these locations telling us? If the employee can give you as enough information, that would be fine, but it will be best if we can witness it. Cindy, is that typically how you guys do it in your counties?
Yes, I think we only had that witness, that exception with COVID that one year, right?
Right.
So now
right.
it's back to, you need to actually have contact with them. Is that correct?
Right. That would be good.
Yeah, as long as, just as long as all of the COC is doing it the same way. So
Yep. I know that some agencies have, so say if you know that the hotel is going to have people, if you want to give those pit forms to the hotel ahead of time and have them fill it out, that would be okay. Because that was actually witnessed and fill out a form. So that's fine. But if it's just a random location, say you go to the gas station and said, oh, we saw somebody this morning. We wouldn't be able to count them unless we actually physically saw the client or the individual. Jane says, do we note what agency or homeless provider completed the risk factor form? Yeah, that'd be great. If they want to put that on there, that's fine. If not to, some of them want to make it anonymous and some of them don't care. So if you want to go ahead and put a note on there that says who completed it, that'd be fine as well. Either way. Your questions? All right. Are there any other questions?
not relating to this.
Yeah.
If there is anyone that is doubled up and watching from the same computer, could you let me know? I have Stacy and Rita that are showing together, but throw me an email or shoot me an email later to let me know if someone else was watching with you so I can get attendance. Sorry, that's it.
No, you're good. All right, well, you guys are free to go. I will stay on for a couple more minutes in case anybody. Oh, there's a question that came through from Amy. To be clear, the risk factor form is to be completed by who again? So Amy, that can be completed by somebody that works at the hotel, maybe somebody at the front desk who sees individuals that are homeless checking in, or it could also be filled out by, say, an SSVF case manager who is putting those clients in the hotel. Basically anybody who's dealing with that homeless individual and trying to find them housing.
Or maybe like Ministerial Alliance or
Yep.
Salvation Army, places like that.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And Margot asked something that's not really related, but this would not count as HC hours. This is not housing counseling. So it will have to get reported under a different grant. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for attending and asking those great questions. I will get the recording sent out to Cindy and Kelly today, also with those 2 updated forms. Amy had one more question. If we CEFS have housed someone, do they count in this count? Yes, they do. Most, Cindy, you have to remind me, most of yours are housed through ETH with a hotel voucher, correct?
Correct. Or right now it's with our ESGCV. Now that we
Perfect.
got that mod. So
Okay, so
yes.
all of those clients are already in the HMIS. So you don't have to fill out a form on somebody that's already housed in one of CEFS's programs. We'll pull that directly from the HMIS. Diane asks, can we call the hotel and have them fill it out over the phone? Yeah. Cindy, is that okay with you?
If it's okay with the continuance, okay with
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Yeah, as long as the individual is sitting there and filling out that form with the hotel, that's fine. Also in the past, we've given some forms to law enforcement, so feel free to do that. If they find somebody, they're welcome to fill out a form and submit it to you, and we could submit that as well. That's completely fine. And then can they fill out the form for the risk factors over the phone? Absolutely. That's completely fine as well. Good questions, guys. Thank you for being so interactive. It makes it better. Better training for everyone. All right.
Well,
Thank you
very
guys.
much. Thank you, Jess.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me know if you need anything. I will also include my email when I send it to Kelly and Cindy. So feel free to, if you think of something else, feel free to shoot me an email. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.